right, it's indeed a beautiful and bright day to be alive. Welcome to our show. And as always, we're always glad you could join us. This is Political Spectrum coming to you live from Uyo, the state's capital. And I remain your host, Onumese Ehinoma Olusegun. As usual, we will be engaging in conversations around our everyday political and economic developments in Nigeria and sometimes beyond. So much has happened within the 24 hours since our last edition. Now we must get you updated with facts and empirical data. But first, on President Tinubu's administration's calendar, today is the 9th of November, Thursday, 2023. And it marks exactly 166 days of President Bola Tinubu in office as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This is now exactly 5 months and 15 days as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. All right, we begin to try to bring you up to speed on some of the developments that has occurred within the past few hours. Tinubu signs 2023 supplementary budget of 2.17 trillion. Now, President Bola Tinubu on Wednesday signed 2.176 trillion Supplementary Appropriations Act on Wednesday in Abuja to strengthen Nigerian security architecture and address the critical infrastructure deficit, among other considerations. Now, according to a statement by the presidential spokesperson, the President signed the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2023 in his office at the State House in the presence of Senate President Godswill Akpabio and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas. Others present also were the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, Majority Leader of the Senate, Okpeyemi Bamidele, the Chairman of the Appropriations Committee in the Senate, Olamilekun Adeola, and the House of Representatives, Abubakar Bichi, as well as the Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Zaki Adedeji. Now, the National Assembly passed the budget last Thursday with a minor difference. I will tell you the difference. While the House moved the 5 billion allocated for the procurement of a presidential yacht to student loan line of the budget, the Senate left it intact, as if the 5 billion naira yacht will still be for the yacht. The upper chamber subsequently adopted the House version. Now, providing a breakdown of the supplementary budget, the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Abubakar Bagudu, said the newly approved expenditure for defense and security consists of 30%, while 35% is dedicated to the provision of critical infrastructure to be allocated to the Federal Ministry of Works, the Federal Capital Territory, and Housing and Urban Development. Now, the minister further explained that 32% of the supplementary budget was allocated to the new wage award of Treasury-paid federal workers to cushion the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy. Now, in addition to cash transfer to vulnerable persons and support the Independent National Electoral Commission, amongst other considerations. President Tinubu commended the National Assembly for its expeditious consideration and approval, assuring Nigerians that the executive arm of government will ensure the judicious use of the budgeted resources. All right, that is that about the supplementary budget. Let's also let you know that the appeal court has affirmed Ikenga Ugochinyere victory. Now, Court of Appeal has affirmed the election of the House of Rep member for Idiato North and South Federal Constituency of Imo State, Ikenga Imo Ugochinyere. The appeal court panel, led by Justice Abubakar Babandi Gumel in Lagos, set aside the ruling of the tribunal which had sacked Ugochinyere. The Election Petition Tribunal, which delivered the judgment on September 10th in Mararaba High Court, had ruled that Ugochinyere's PDP was no candidate for the election because there were no primaries in the federal constituency. The panel also directed the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to conduct rerun elections call in 4 wards between APC and the Labour Party candidates. However, a unanimous judgment delivered by Gomel on Wednesday overruled the judgment of the tribunal. So it's congratulations to Imo Ikenga Ugochinyere, the honorable member, that even before he was sworn in, there was an issue in his village where his uncle was killed and part of the house was burnt down because of political differences. We wish him well as he continues, because there's a lot of work to be done. And remember, he was also an active member of the IPAC Inter-Party Advisory Council at some point, and very vocal and critical against the Imo State government. All right, let's take another update. EFCC produces former CBN governor in court, and court grants Emefiele bail. Now, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has produced the detained former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, before an Abuja High Court for a hearing on his bail application. Now, recall that Emefiele had been in detention since June the 9th. The court previously ordered the EFCC to either release him unconditionally or produce him in court to be granted bail. However, the EFCC initially failed to comply with this order, and subsequently reports has it that the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Maitama, Abuja, granted him bail. Now, media reports that the presiding judge, Olukayode Adeniyi, ordered the federal government to release Emefiele to his lawyers. The court also ordered the lawyers to ensure that Emefiele is produced for arraignment whenever he is needed, and that his international passport should be deposited before the court. The implication is simple: he cannot travel anywhere until the issues are sorted out. All right, to the major development that is going to form the fulcrum of our conversations today. We hope that our guests turn in. We're going to be having 2 very vibrant guests, one being the president of the National Labour Congress Akwa Ibom chapter, and the other a very, very dogged member of civil society and the executive director of Open Forum, will be joining us on this conversation. But let's take a peek. It's not a breaking news. We've been following the developments, and that is NLC TUC eventually declare a nationwide strike, which is supposed to come up anytime from the 14th of November. Now, the leadership of the NLC and the Trade Union Congress have declared a total nationwide strike effective next Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. The leadership of the 2 unions reached the resolution after an extraordinary National Executive Council meeting on Tuesday, 7th November in Abuja. The 2 major labor unions said nationwide mobilization of members and allies have begun immediately. The action by the organized labor followed the brutalization of the NLC National President Joe Ajero last week in Imo State. Now, there has been widespread outrage by the organized labor accusing the Commissioner of Police in Imo State, Mohammed Barde, of complicity in the recent attack on Ajero. Now, in Owerri, the Imo State capital, the organized labor last Friday handed the federal government a 5-day ultimatum to replace the police commissioner, while also blaming Governor Hope Uzodinma, who's seeking re-election, of the attack on Ajero, though the governor has since said he had no hand in the attack on the labor leader. The organized labor also demanded the arrest and prosecution of some of the governor's aides and threatened to embark on a nationwide industrial action if their demands were not carried out. Already, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, on Sunday redeployed Bade in the name of neutrality ahead of the November 11th, 2023 governorship election in Imo State. All right, before we display some of the NLC demands and their resolutions in the communique, let's listen to the video of the TUC president making very, very clear statements.
Of both congresses frowned at what happened in Imo. We frown completely at it. It shouldn't have happened. For the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress leading workers to examine and protest the non-payment of salaries of some of the workers in Imo, to protest the declaration of ghost workers when these people actively go to work every day, and several issues that have bedeviled workers in Imo State. He went there without gun. He went there without a single machete, but only to protest. The neck of both congresses frowned at what happened in Imo and resolves as follows: that from 12 midnight today, that we are going to carry out a national action that is going to zero in on Imo State. That will be effective 12 midnight today. Then on Tuesday next week, there is going to be a total nationwide strike effective Tuesday next week. Because as of last week, we issued a directive, and in that directive, we had some series of actions that are stated therein, and none of them, as of today, has been met. Of both congresses frowned at what happened in Imo.
All right, that was the TUC President Osifo clearly making statements who displayed the slide. But before then, we announced that the appellate court had given, upheld the victory of Ikenga Imo Ugochinyere of Idiato local government area. Recall that he has always alleged that he had issues, serious issues with his current governor, Governor Hopu Uzodimma, who he claims is the architect of all his misfortune. But there's good news for him now. Recently, he had an interview on the Arise News channel where he was able to bear his mind on the state of things. Let's take a look at the video. Credit to Arise Television.
It was it, considering what we went through and the lives that was lost, but at the same time, we were actually happy, but we are not really celebrating because the task ahead is also challenging. I don't know the right word to use, but then we are quite appreciative of the courage displayed by Justice Gumel, Peter Afem, and Aisha Menamo, that boldly restated a principles of law that the Supreme Court, both the Appeal Court and the Supreme Court, just recently have also stated very clearly, and also being able to resolve those issues clearly. In the first place, we ought not have been on this journey because we're talking about a pre-election issue of primary venue, which was litigated by those under the Constitution that have right to litigate over it up to Federal High Court, Appeal Court, and Supreme Court cleared me to contest, and I think that should have ended the matter. Now, they went back again to the Federal High Court again, both the Labour Party and the APC and different people, and they also lost. So after the election, then they returned back again to the same issue, trying to talk about a judgment of another particular candidate. Those judgments were there when I won my own Supreme Court, and those judgments were there when I also won at the Federal High Court. And the most important thing is that we now forget about that the election is about the supreme will of the people. And here we are running about the issue of where our primary head, which was held in a way because of insecurity, which everybody is aware, INEC monitored, and the Supreme Court also affirmed. And now you are running around it. We have a contest here, and a contest that I was in exile, I was not in Imo State when that election held, and then you won one polling unit. And it's also very important, I can like to say it so that children can understand what will go through when history about this is also reviewed. You, out of 346 polling units, you got one polling unit out of 346. You came third, you have 2,000 votes, and then you dragged us through this process because some people believe that it's also possible that you can come from last to the first position. So we appreciate this judgment. We are happy about it, but our country should go past beyond this kind of barbaric challenges of getting one polling unit and then you want to snatch a mandate that was so popular. So we feel relieved. We are excited about the judgment.
All right, that is Imo Ikenga Ugochiere. Maybe subsequently we are going to be having him on our studios very soon, where we'll be x-raying a lot of issues. You know, before now he had said a lot of things, and when he was eventually won his election, he held it so high and praised his people and God that stood by him. And suddenly we heard that the tribunal removed him because, according to the tribunal, he was not a member of the PDP, or was it that PDP really didn't have a legitimate candidate, or they did not hold primaries within, you know, the constituency with which he was representing. But as at then, there were serious, clear issues, and I'm sure the appeal was able to stay on those facts, that it was not a deliberate one. So huge congratulations to the Honorable House of Rep member. It's his first time, and we hope that he gathers enough experience. Now, moving back to the NLC, Imo State government and the police issue, let us display some of the demands. I think we showed some yesterday. Let's start from some of the slides from yesterday and x-ray those slides before we have our guests join us. All right, the NLC-TUC NEC in session resolution. Okay, this was not the one we used yesterday, but basically, yes, let's see whether we can have the one we started with yesterday. In session resolution we had yesterday. If my producer can hear me, so we can go through them. All right, so the NLC-TUC demands from the Imo State government. Okay, these were the initial demands. Say failure to implement the past agreements, failure to pay 20 months of outstanding salary arrears to some of their colleagues, then declaration of 11,000 workers as ghost workers. NLC is asking them to revert it. Then vandalization of the NLC State Secretariat, discrimination payments to workers. I believe we have other slides. NLC-TUC also demanded for, do we have other slides, please? All right, NLC also was bickering over the unsettled gratuity arrears, the non-compliance with national minimum wage, intimidation and harassment of labor leaders, use of violence and thuggery, misappropriation of union dues, declaration of pensioners as ghosts, systematic harassment and intimidation of workforce, resistance to social dialogue, amongst a lot of other serious issues. So here is what NLC is saying, that their demands be met by the Imo State governor so that the labor workforce in Imo State will begin to experience a better standard of working conditions. But ever since then, it has even been thrown into some kind of political tussle that now got the national president, Mr. Joe Ajaero, who coincidentally happens to come from that same state. It now threw him into some kind of crisis where he was beaten up and his eyes were badly hit, and he had to go for a brain and chest x-ray scan and all that. But the development doesn't seem to end, and all this we will discuss. We'll go on a short break and then try and see whether our colleagues have joined us. The NLC president, Akwa Ibom chapter, we're expecting that he joins if it won't be too busy. And then another member from the civil society will be explaining all these things and they will bring it to the fore. So stay tuned, join us again.
broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news from the world. Watch Spectrum TV on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story. One truth.
The Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding you, your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on StarTimes to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
All right, many thanks for staying tuned, and we are welcome back on the show. The conversations begin. We have two gentlemen join us virtually, both from the city of Uyo. The first one is citizen Matthew Kofi Okono, the regular resource person that joins us most times on Mondays, is online. Citizen MKO, good morning to you. Citizen, good morning to you. Okay, we are also expecting the NLC president of the Akwa Ibom State chapter to also join us on this conversation. Elder Sonny James. Elder Sonny James is the NLC chairman of the Akwa Ibom State chapter of the National Labour Congress. Elder Sonny James, good morning to you. Have you joined us? Can you hear me?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
You're welcome on the show. We understand that you attended the emergency NLC TUC NEC in session meeting yesterday in Abuja. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
Day before yesterday.
Okay, was
day before yesterday.
2 days ago. Okay, you're most welcome. Okay, so before we go into the conversation, I'd like to quickly ask you because there is a new development now that happened in Imo that got the national NLC president beaten up, and a lot of issues had come off from then. But I'd like to ask you, before then, you know, you've been having history with the federal government, back and forth, issue of palliatives, issue of removing poor people policy according to the NLC and all that. I'd like to ask you, you were supposed to go on an industrial strike, but the presidency sent his delegation and you guys had a meeting and it was postponed indefinitely. But I'd like to ask you, what is the current status now with the federal government, apart from the Imo issue?
Yeah, the issues that were most at stake for all Nigerians. The first of it was the issue of this wage award. You are aware that the federal government did agree with Labour to pay a wage award of 35,000 to all federal workers.
That's very correct.
And they did not begin the process despite the agreement. So Labour had threatened that if their play agreement is not implemented, they will proceed on a nationwide strike. It was on the basis of that. That the NLC threatened to go on strike. But as we speak now, that particular entitlement has been paid in the month of October salary for the federal workers who are in the federal government payroll as we speak.
Okay.
They have started getting their monies. To ensure that that is done. The issue of 25,000 to pensioners and all other vulnerable people, that register is being compiled, and I can assure you that in the next couple of days, that payment is going to take place. And therefore, those things that were agreed are really ongoing with the federal government. Salaries and Wages Commission are sending circulars to all the MDS of the federal government to comply with that directive. You will agree with me that the bureaucracies of one MDA to the other is one of the things that is delaying the process.
I quite agree.
In that agreement, there was a further push. There was a further push in that agreement that the state government and the private sector employers, in item number 10 of that agreement, they also were also urged to join the federal government in the payment of the 35,000 naira.
The wage award.
As wage award. And therefore, for us here in Akwa Ibom, upon receipt of that letter for agreement, we also forwarded our letter to His Excellency the Governor of Akwa Ibom, said Pastor Mobasino, to begin the process of engaging the labor movement in the state with a view to giving us the balance. I use the word balance because you are aware, before the agreement was reached, the palliative committee in Akwa Ibom, where I was a member, had already recommended to the governor to pay palliative to Akwa Ibom workers as wage support.
Okay.
And Akwa Ibom State government had begun the process by paying 10,000 naira. So what we are necessarily asking at the moment is for the balance of 25,000 to be paid to the workers. That we are yet to have footings on them, because you will also know the process of governance. Nobody, no governor would be willing to make do with issues of giving money to workers. But if it was to withdraw, it wouldn't have been over 24 hours, they would have withdrawn. And therefore, that process have started in Akwa Ibom State. We are still receiving the 10,000 that the state ESCO had approved. Because I want to use the word. It was not an agreement. It was a recommendation, which was more than that, to the state ESCO by the palliative committee. But the state ESCO graciously approved 10,000 naira to workers and 5,000 naira to pensioners. I want it noted that there was no formal agreement on that.
10,000 naira to workers. 10,000 naira to workers and 5,000 naira to pensioners. Noted.
To pensioners, that's correct. And therefore, we had recommended between 15 to 20,000 to workers and 10,000 to pensioners. So they went further to cut it down to 10,000 and 5,000 in the State Executive Council meeting. And therefore, it is now a position that federal government has agreed with the federal NRC. It is also a position that we at the state level should engage and have similar agreement at the state level, where the government will agree on what they will pay to the workers. Because it is now a subject where salaries, National Salaries and Wages Commission have come in to make it a matter of right for Nigerian workers.
Okay. So instead of a temporary arrangement, they want to make it more permanent. Is that what you're insinuating?
Yeah, whatever is agreed at that level, if it is discussed with organized labor, is more permanent and acceptable agreement.
Okay, thank you very much.
Knowing fully well that...
Go on, just land.
Yeah, knowing fully well that the national minimum wage will also be coming up next year. And therefore, one of the important thing in that agreement is that 35,000 naira will continue to be paid until the new minimum wage is put in place. Whereas what we had in agreement, what we had in Akwa Ibom was just a 10,000 of 3 months payment.
Yes, just like a lot of other states.
I have a final position on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification on that. Okay, now let us now move into the NLC TUC NEC in session resolutions. Now, the first document, though a long one, was actually making, I can use the word complaints. You understand? I could use the word complaints. You were talking about ghost workers. You were talking about a lot of issues you felt was not good for the Imo indigenes. And then after the resolution, you now brought up 3 major items. You said to order the immediate withdrawal of services and shutdown of Imo State beginning midnight today. All workers and affiliates are expected to ensure compliance from wherever they are. All flights into and out of Imo, fuel supplies and electricity be stopped immediately as applicable. Then you went further. All public and private sector workers are to immediately down tools immediately. Now the second one, you said that of our demands are still unmet. Workers all over the federation shall join in withdrawing their services by midnight Tuesday the 14th. Now I'd like to ask you, the issues that came up that warranted your national president traveling to Owerri, that now got him into the unfortunate incident where he was manhandled, you know, very, very unfair treatment, was an Imo issue. Why has the NEC in session, the NLC TUC NEC in session resolution now become a nationwide industrial action from 14th? Please explain so that people who are watching you can understand better.
Yeah, let me put, before I clarify that, there's one important thing that must be clarified.
All right, sir, go on, sir.
Before the resolution, there were other issues that happened. The first thing is that in 2020, Governor Hobudo Sodima, upon assumption of office, went into what they call internal audit and declared many people ghost workers.
Yes.
In January 9, 2021, the NLC leadership, NLC and TUC leadership, led by the current governor of Kebbi State, who was then the deputy president of NLC, led a 6-man national officers to Imo State to find out why His Excellency Mr. Hobuzodima could do such a drastic decision without due process. And therefore, they were threatened to go on protest at 2021 January. And there was an agreement between organized labor and the government of Imo State. I needed to bring this clarification because people think for the NLC to go to Imo State now, they are bringing political dimensions to it. I want everybody to be aware that in 2021, Comrade Joe Ojero was not the NLC president.
Yes, he was not the NLC president as of 2021. That is very clear. And the reason why I'd asked the question, if you can still hear me...
The pensioners that they declared as ghost workers should also be restored. Because some of them were now still being invited for verifications, promotion interviews, and their salaries were not paid. And therefore, the NLC said, return back these people to the payroll. From 2021, there had been several issues of going to Imo State for a protest. But it wasn't possible because of the state of the nation. And therefore, the NLC, now under Joe Ojero, wrote several communications to the government of Imo State so that they can have a way of sitting down together on social dialogue to solve those problems. If the NLC did not go at the time it went, people, the new governor or the also they are going back for second term, will say, I have just entered office. Allow me some time. We said since it was Hobuzodima that did the agreement, it is only him that has the right to solve the problem that he created. That was why NLC went on that protest. I'm trying to clear the political dimension people are putting on the matter. The next thing is that as that action was duly notified, all quarters were duly notified, including the Nigerian Police Force, were all duly notified of the intention of the Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress to have a peaceful protest in Imo State on the 1st of November. Upon reaching there on the 31st as arrival, everybody were on ground. The president directed that the following day, the workers should come out and let us have a peaceful rally in the Nigerian Labour Congress premises. Where need arises, we can make advancement to the House of Assembly, which is closer to the NLC or the state house, the state government house, to deliver our message. But while the workers started resuming at the NLC secretariat, there were talks in 3 Hilux vehicles with black polo and black jean, government plate number Hilux vehicles, who invaded the premises of the Nigerian Labour Congress and started beating people. At this time, people were not up to 30 in the premises. So they beat them, collected their valuables, including their handset and laptop. At the end, as this was going on, the president of the NLC could not hold himself back and decided to visit the venue of the Nigerian Labour Congress Secretariat to find out things for himself, while workers who were gathering on a peaceful protest were beaten up by thugs. As soon as he entered the premises of the Nigerian Labour Congress Imo State Council, 5 Hilux vehicle special team with police, highest ranking, very high ranking police officers were all on hand. 5 vehicles, all police vehicles. In addition to the 3 former Hilux that were there,
government
that
vehicles
were occupied by the thugs.
Yes, I'm following your story.
They now
go on. I'm following your story.
To their own place unknown to anybody. It was on the basis of this that the NLC decided to release a circular
we might be having a little bit of a hitch there. We were having a conversation with the NLC President Akwa Ibom chapter. I don't know whether Citizen MKO has joined us. We have started the conversations on the issue around the NLC TUC in session resolutions. What is your take on the matter?
My take on that is that a resolution arises on the fact that having given you a laydown of what happened. The man in question that was beaten in Imo State is not the chairman of NLC in Imo State. It was a national president of NLC in the country that was beaten the way all of you have seen.
Okay.
So it is only the entire country to be shut down to represent the fact that what has been done to him is a national disgrace and it's not acceptable to the Nigerian Labour Congress.
Okay, so that is why
so
on the so that is hello, comrade. Comrade, can you hear me?
The national NLC to Nigeria, who is a signatory to all international conventions, has shown themselves to the entire world how they can treat one of their own with impunity, and therefore it is totally condemnable.
Okay.
It is on the basis of this that we have agreed to approve the streets on a national protest.
Okay.
So that's the clarification.
Okay. So the going national on November 14th is more of symbolism than the fact that you might be having a problem at the federal level. It was more of symbolism. Let all the state chapters go in solidarity with the president because of the incidents that happened in Imo. I want that clarification, NLC president.
Yeah, it is always that. If you look at the press release, that is what is written there. That the first action started with Imo State, and therefore where the Imo State government seems adamant to resolve the listed problems, which was communicated to them. The Nigerian workers in the country will go on a sympathy solidarity in support of the Imo people to actualize their aim and in condemnation to what was done to the national president of NLC.
Okay. Okay. All right, Comrade Sonny, just give me 2 minutes. Let me quickly bring Citizen MKO in. Citizen MKO, you've been following the developments so far so good. I want you to just give us your own perspective on the issue. Okay, I don't seem to be hearing you clearly. Can you check your device if you have not muted your device? Citizen MKO, please. I cannot hear you at all. You are not audible. If you can hear me, please check if your device has been muted. Okay, Comrade Sonny, let us go on. Now, there are, just like you tried to address, some of the issues when you gave a comprehensive breakdown of how the whole thing happened. In fact, right now, a lot of people, including me, are even shocked that everything started from inside the NLC premises. I believe that the NLC ideally should have constitutional jurisdiction rights to do whatever they want to do within their premises, so long as it is not criminal and so long as it is not illegal. I'm surprised that everything started from there. I actually thought, that the whole protest, members of the NLC had started moving out, and going on the streets, and that was what happened. However, I'm not justifying the bad and unfair treatment of our NLC president. But a lot of people are saying that the NLC president, we need a clarification for this, has delved into political realms by some of his actions in Imo. Number one is the timing. Why now? There's been a lot of time where there's been agreements. Before the campaigns, a month, 2 months, 3 months before the campaigns, those issues should have come up. Why is it timed now? And from the political circles, people are saying that Ajero, in conjunction with all the other members of organized labor, may have an ulterior motive, which is to ensure that the governor does not return. I want you to use this opportunity and this platform to react to that allegation and skepticism.
is important for me to say very straightforward that Comrade Joe Jero does not do anything on political grounds. The first thing that must be noted is that if the workers were on the street protest and the police came short, but this one, it was in the premises of the NLC and people were not even there. Number two, Comrade Joe Jero, who is the president of NLC today, is not the one that wrote that agreement in 9 January 2021 with Comrade Usorima. So what he was doing is to exercise the fact that this agreement that you signed, in 2 weeks' time, you'll be going on an election. A re-election without solving the problem you created in your first year in office. So it is only better for that agreement to be finished with before you go into your real election. If Usorima, for any reason, did not win the election of the second term, and then somebody who is a new governor is confronted with the agreement Governor Hope Usorima had with Labour, that man will merely say, I am just coming into office, and therefore I should be given some time. It is on the basis of this that Nigerian Labour Congress felt that was the best time to go back to the same person who did the agreement to solve the problem. Don't forget, before that phase of November, beginning from March, there were 4 communications between the NLC and the Imo State government. So the government of Imo State also had enough time to respond to the Nigerian Labour Congress that this is the best time they want the issues to be resolved. And this is the method they want it to be resolved. Never again shall any governor think that he has monopoly of violence, because what is happening is showing us that we cannot respect the rule of law and social dialogue between organized labor and the government of any place. So let it be put very clear that there's no political undertone to this matter. The Joe Jero might as well not have been somebody on the seat. It would have been any other person who will still want to actualize that. This is not the first time the NLC would be putting forward their demands, and then where the person seems adamant, they will go on confronting the situation at the best of time. This time, closer to your election, is the best of time to get matter you created that you should solve them.
Okay.
So that's the situation.
Okay. I'm happy, Comrade Sonny. I'm happy that you tried to draw the line that differentiated it, because if you were not in the NLC, I can assure you that it would be easy for you to also believe that looking at the timing, it may have political undertone. Whereas you have explained to us now that we are saying, okay, Hope Uzodinma is about to finish and he has not kept his promises. This is the time for you to keep your promise before you seek for another tenure in office. That's a very clear explanation of the situation of things, because a lot of people have even started saying that maybe the Labour Party, based on the fact that the Supreme Court judgment didn't go in their favor, are mobilizing the NLC to distort some of the APC states, you know. And of course, we know what has been happening in Imo State, especially with the issues of the unknown gunmen and the dissatisfaction and a lot of back and forth in Imo State. So thank you so much for clearing that. Now,
I think before we close, I think it would be better for us to inform our people in Nigeria, in Akwa Ibom in particular, that Nigeria is not the only country that the labor movement has a party, political party.
That is very correct.
In Venezuela, in Brazil, even in United States, it was labor workers, organized labor, that have bidden to be where it is. In Britain, we have Labour Party, Workers' Party. And we want to understand how things are done in the country and should be done right.
Okay.
The tape is there very clear. Where a Rufai, when a Labour invaded Kaduna sometimes ago, a Rufai did say that Labour can only bring their candidate to do those things, that he will not do it. If we have our own candidate, we can engage him properly with our instrumentalities of that election to show him that if you are part of our own platform, you should be able to be workers-oriented. The issue of ideology would have been taken care of. Please let people be informed that Labour Party has nothing to do with the activities of the organized labor.
Okay, thank you very much. But by your statement, you've also meant that even if Labour Party is involved, it is not an unconstitutional issue. Can I confirm that?
Yeah, if the Labour Party is the one involved, yeah, we will still do whatever we're doing. After all, right now, Oti, who is the only governor in the Labour Party,
State,
the NLC have written to them. We are also going to visit them.
Oh, that is good.
So there's no politics in what we are doing here.
All right, thank you very much, Comrade Sonny. James, I understand that you have other things you need to attend to, so I'll let you go. I don't know whether you have any other message concerning this action. You have just 1 minute to talk, to members of the public, if you have any message.
Yeah, it's very simple. My message to the members of the public and Akwa Ibom workers is that there's nothing politics in making sure that you went out with your father. Somebody is owing you and your father. You went to see the person to ask for the debt, and somebody beat your father in front of you, and you do nothing about it. We shall all go on sympathy and solidarity with the Imo State on next week, Tuesday. That is not to say that we do not have our challenges in Akwa Ibom.
That is true.
When the relevant organs of the NLC
Okay, I think we've been able to get a lot of information from Comrade Sonny James. I'll let him go since the network will not allow him complete his message. But his message is very clear. The NLC president, who happens to be the father of organized labor, was treated in a very unfair way, and as such, certain measures have been taken in Imo State, and to also remind the governor, who is seeking second term in office, to also come back and redeem some of the pledges and promises he made whilst he was given the opportunity to become the executive governor in charge. And he has said that come Tuesday, the entire different state chapters also will be moving in solidarity with the NLC Imo chapter to make a very strong and confirmed statement. He also added that it doesn't mean that the NLC in Akwa Ibom may not have their own personal challenges, but all have to rally round at this point in time to ensure that the message is clearly sent, to everybody concerning what happened in Imo with the NLC president. All right, I think I have Citizen MKO back online. I don't know whether you are still there. I want you to have your own I want you to give your own overview of the whole situation. You are also an active member of civil society, and this is a major civil society issue. Comrade, please. Citizen MKO, I don't know whether you can hear me. I don't know. But I want you to put your own comment on the floor also, so that people can know exactly what your opinion is. All right, we're already 5 minutes late for a break. We'll go on a short break thereafter. We'll be right back to conclude on the conversations with Citizen MKO. Stay tuned. Join us again.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Brilliant broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news around the world. Watch Spectrum TV on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story. One truth.
Boy.
of both Congresses frowned at what happened in Imo. We frown completely at it. It shouldn't have happened. For the President of the Nigerian Labour Congress leading workers to examine and protest the non-payment of salaries of some of the workers in Imo, to protest the declaration of ghost workers when these people actively go to work every day, and several issues that have bedeviled workers in Imo State. He went there without gun. He went there without a single machete, but only to protest. The neck of both Congresses frowned at what happened in Imo and resolves as follows: that from 12 midnight today, that we are going to carry out a national action that is going to zero in on Imo State. That will be effective 12 midnight today. Then on Tuesday next week, there is going to be a total nationwide strike effective Tuesday next week. Because as of last week, we issued a directive, and in that directive, we had some series of actions that are stated therein, and none of them, as of today, have been met.
All right, many thanks for staying tuned. And if you're just tuned in, it's Political Spectrum on Spectrum Television. We are about wrapping up. I don't know, Citizen MKO, can you hear me clearly now?
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, so you heard, okay, so you heard the NLC president of Akwa Ibom chapter, and you know, he put light to some major gray areas as to why their action, the status with federal government, the status with Imo State government, and why they are taking what the actions they are taking right now, and why they would also take another action that they intend to take on Tuesday. I want you to give us a general overview of how you see the whole thing from the civil society point of view, sir. The civil society point of view.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad I listened to the Akwa Ibom State Chairman of the NLC, Comrade Sonny James, and I would say those areas are really gray areas, except for those who have not been following up developments, maybe in Imo State and maybe other parts of the country having to do with labor relations. For me, in particular, I feel bad that an administration of a man who had tried to be governor of Imo State since 2002. Some persons may not be aware, Hope Uzodinma started with the PDP, rose to the pinnacle, and by 2002, he defected to AD, Alliance for Democracy, and got the ticket and could not make it. Thereafter, he tried again, and Hope Ifeanyi Ararume defeated him in the nomination in PDP before he now went back, became a senator, two-term senator, and then moved to APC in 2018 and got the ticket for the elections. And here he is trying to do a second term. And by May of this year, on the Workers' Day, he made a very passionate speech to workers, lamenting that Imo State has a debt profile of gratuities and pensions to the tune of 169 billion. And before now, some persons had queried his style, that when he came in 2020, I think 2020, he got a loan of about 16 billion, and the money was basically used for buying cars to public office holders, and that also added to about 100 billion already outstanding debt. So Hope Uzodinma told the workers that he has started to pay. And then it's a pity that some of them have died, but that next of kin will be paid. And that is a very worker-friendly governor. Now we can see that it is one thing to talk, and it's another thing to act. And I believe strongly, and most people should by now come to the realization we should not take people's words for it. We should take their actions. What happened in Imo State to the NLC president is a global disgrace. And unfortunately, Joe Ajero, the NLC president, is from Imo State. So we may see the light as in, if he comes home, we will beat him black and blue. Unfortunately, it has happened. And I am in sympathy with Labour over whatever action they are taking. But I'm happy at the clarification that the national strike, which has been slated for Tuesday 14th, is particularly to draw attention to what is going on in Imo State, not because of NLC's demands to the federal government, which I have always maintained are grossly inadequate to address the precarious state of Nigerians. Remember, NLC is not just speaking for those in the government employ. Like the Akwa Ibom State chairman said, that the private sector are supposed to also do something about the palliative and taking care of workers. So if the private sector is part of the NLC, as it naturally should, why has the capacity of the private sector and even the civil society not been harnessed to be able to put serious demands before the federal government that can address the situation of over 200 million people that have been reduced to almost subhumans by many people not being able to even eat once a day? So being that the national strike, if it will hold, is to press on the demand for things to be done rightly in Imo State, I stand with them. The impunity that has taken place right before the eyes of the world is not something that should be considered as a family affair. Oh, no, it's an APC president, governor, it's an APC state, and they are going to election. What is election if it's not about the people? Election is supposed to be on Saturday. So I didn't foresee the election holding in Imo State. Election can hold in Kogi and Bayelsa State. But in Imo State, the level of impunity of a man that has clearly said he is workers friendly. I can just take some excerpt from his speech.
Yeah, feel free to do so.
During the May, the May Workers' Day. He said the delay in payment was due to automation and biodata capturing of pensioners started by his own administration. And he went ahead to say that it might amaze you to know that we have a debt portfolio of over 169 billion unpaid gratuities and pensions in Imo State, way back from 2007. Some of these pensioners have died. Now that payments have started, those that have died, we will pay their next of kin. I am proud to tell you that Imo State government is enjoying industrial harmony with the workers of Imo State. This is because we have their welfare and happiness as our top priority. We shall continue to do the right thing to make Imo workers happy. Imagine that. What can we point to? Is it in adhering, implementing an agreement that was entered into under the Ayuba Waba administration in 2021? What are we really talking about? You just wonder. Like I said, it's not Hope Uzodinma is not a governor by accident that he never aspired. They call him to come and aspire. No, He has been struggling to be a governor since 2002. He has been a candidate at least on 2 occasions, and then aspirants on 1. And then here we are.
So he clearly, knows the plight of the average Imo worker. You said this to make that clear.
Absolutely. And this statement was made on May 1, 2023.
All right. Comrade,
on Workers' Day.
I'm afraid we will have to leave it at that point. Thank you so much for your own contribution on the issue. That's about all we can take today on Political Spectrum. Apologies, we had to squeeze in the NLC president because he's deeply in some very, very serious activities of the NLC. But we want to also thank him once again for finding out time to join us. Osifo, the TUC president, should have joined us also, but like I said, they were all hurrying for some kind of emergency meetings or the other. But we're sure that whatever the developments are and whatever happens, we will bring it to you on this program and bring the necessary people who have the necessary information to come and have conversation over it for our information, our entertainment, and every other benefits that it will accrue. I remain yours sincerely, remember that all our social media platforms are open for comments. The conversation around nation building and deepening democracy does not end. So let us continue to engage. Have a great day. See you on the next edition.